working in specific business teams, how can we promote ourselves and show value, especially now that everyone is trying to do more with less? And Frank, do you want to start?
Sure. So I think promoting yourself internally, there's within the business, it is really it's helping the business see around corners
Mm,
and develop relationships. And so seeing around corners means, can you do something for the business, like attending their weekly team meetings,
sure.
or doing something to align closer to get a different perspective on what they're doing, to show the business you are like invested in helping them, and that you don't necessarily just and that they don't see you as just someone from the legal department, but you're
Mm,
actually part of this team, right? You're a piece of the pie that's helping them get to go. And then within the legal department, I think just advocating for the business unit you're supporting, showing how it's impacting and supporting the overall goals of the business, is always a good way to just promote yourself within the.
awesome. And Gulzar?
Yeah, I agree with everything Frank said. And the only additional tidbit I can offer is, again, it goes back to, again, it's like, how do you show that value, right, to the business? And it's not about just, I'm here as a legal partner. I think you want them to see you as a strategic thought partner. That's always the goal, right? And I would say attending their meetings, their business meetings, is super important. And at first, you maybe just be a fly on the wall. You're a sponge. You're soaking it in. But then you're also exposed to information at those meetings. Later on, you may go to a different meeting and get some other information. You can show your value sometimes by helping connect the dots. Actually, again, that's not necessarily a legal role per se, but they're like, oh, and then suddenly you start talking at these meetings, right? We've been sitting silent because you're in a sponge. You're absorbing all the information.
Yeah.
And suddenly you start like, hey, that's a really great, what an interesting initiative. And I heard so-and-so over here, they were interested actually in a similar path. There might be some synergies. Maybe you could consider talking to that individual. Like, you can offer value that way that has absolutely nothing to do with your legal skills or how you're going to spot issues. But I think business partners do value that. And then the second part was like, as you get more comfortable in that space, don't shy away from also opining on, and I'll make it very clear. I'll say, because some people, like, when they think I'm speaking as a lawyer, right? I'll say, hey, I'm taking my legal hat off and I'm putting my business hat on. Let me comment on what you just said. And I'll be honest with you, it took me years and years to be able to get comfortable to say that, because I also had a little bit of an imposter syndrome, because I'm like, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a business person, really. But I've always been more of a business person than I thought I was. But it took me a while to get that confidence to speak up in the business meetings and start opining. And I have found that business folks are very receptive, or not everyone, okay, but there are folks who are going to be receptive to some of your ideas and may take it. And the other thing I'll say is, sometimes you may feel that you're hitting a barrier. I've certainly hit a barrier, there in parts of my career where I want to do this exact same thing that our attendees asking, trying to go to these meetings, and they'll say, yeah, no, you're not invited. That's not for you. And in fact, I had one time a leader who asked me, like, why are you here? You're the lawyer, aren't you? You don't need to come. Like, I've had those kinds of interactions too. And in those cases, my recommendation is, don't get discouraged. If somebody is kind of shutting that door for you and not letting you in, you will find other people in the organization and seek them out, who will open that door for you, who will invite you in. I remember, there was one meeting I was always just trying to go to because it was a really important meeting for the organization at Target, like back in the day. This was about 8 years ago. And the person who was kind of leading it was like, no, like, I don't think this is the right fit for you. I don't think you're going to get any value out of it. But I had my own agenda as to why I wanted to be there. I was trying to be more proactive. But I found other supporters who were like, you know what? Maybe it's not this meeting, but why don't you come and sit in this meeting? I think that's just as useful. And they had control over who gets invited to these other meetings that were just as helpful. So seek supporters and you will find them. I promise you. Just because one or two people shoot you down or don't invite you, and don't get discouraged. There will be people, if you tell them what kind of journey you're on and what you're trying to do, they will support you.
That's awesome advice. Absolutely awesome advice. I actually have nothing to add there because I had the same experience where I tried to join as many meetings as I could. You're right, as a fly on the wall, just soaking it in. And it was very helpful.